Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamritavarshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambattvamanusandathami Bhagavad Gita Bhavatveshini Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramo Panishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tatkatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidussura suragana Devaya tasmai namaha Devaya tasmai namaha. So let us chant verses, 5 verses starting with verse number 9 of the 8th chapter. So 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13th. So let's chant those, and we will chant each half a line twice, as we did last time. So starting with verse number 9. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Ano Aniyan Samanudsmaredyaha. Again. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Ano Aniyan Samanudsmaredyaha. Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat. Prayana Kale Manasachalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva. Prayana Kale Manasachalena Bhaktya Yukto Yoga Balena Chaiva. Dhruvor Madhye Pranamaveshya Samyak Satam Param Purushamupaiti Divyam. Dhruvor Madhye Pranamaveshya Samyak Satam Param Purushamupaiti Divyam. Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yatayo Vitaragaha. Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti Vishanti Yatayo Vitaragaha. Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshye. Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshye. Sarvadvarani samyamya Mano Hridi Nirudhya Cha. Sarvadvarani samyamya Mano Hridi Nirudhya Cha. Murdhanya Dhayatmana Pranam Asthito Yoga Dharanam. Murdhanya Dhayatmana Pranam Asthito Yoga Dharanam. Omityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Om Ityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusmaran Yaf Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim Yaf Prayati Tyajan Deham Sayati Paramam Gatim. So just to revise the context of where we are in the Bhagavad Gita. As you know, the 8th chapter is going over the preparation for transitioning from one human life to the next. In case one is not able to give up the sense of one's limited existence in this life. So this is kind of like a safety valve, in the sense that suppose you have the main objective of the Bhagavad Gita, as it is of the Vedas, Vedanta, is that you should be able to see your true nature, which is independence from all sense of limitations in this life itself. In fact, it can only be done when one is fully awake. You can even say it can only be done once you have the capability of understanding. So the whole thing is a very beautiful structure. First of all of the inert objects that you have don't have a problem. They don't need to be free. They are there as props in the whole play. Then once you have Sukshma Sharira, so means that you have some mind thinking, then you become conscious. And in the state of consciousness also there are stages. And so as long as one is in an animal stage, you don't have the ability to have a developed mind to see the reality of yourself. Then you come to the human stage. And in the human stage also, for a long time, you don't have the ability to conduct a effective inquiry into the truth about oneself. Certainly when one is a child, you have no, because Swami Dayanand used to say that when the child is born, it is enveloped in complete ignorance. Complete ignorance. That's interesting. Our third grandchild was born recently, a couple of months ago. And so my son and our daughter-in-law, they send us a report. They live close by and we unfortunately cannot see them every day, but we see them maybe once a week, the baby growing. But they send us pictures and some, nowadays of course it's so interesting. That wasn't the case some time ago. You can send videos, almost like daily. And it was very interesting. Just the other day, our daughter-in-law sent us a picture which said that Sanya, her name, is now beginning to understand that she has some hands. And sure enough, in the video, her eyes are now going into, and she's moving her hands, and she's seeing that as a separate part of herself, a movable part. Before that, she was, her hands were all in in some kind of a wrapped up, so that she doesn't scratch herself. But her movement of the hand was unknown to her. She was complete darkness about what's going on. Now, one by one, the knowledge comes to them. And one of the things is my hands. And then they can recognize the person and then smile. This is what our Vedanta says, that really speaking, a child begins to depart from the animal-like existence to a human existence when you smile. Because the entire kingdom of animals, there is no smile. There's no smile. And in fact, the only thing that comes too close to her smiling is the shape of the dolphin's mouth. So they have friendship, they have love, like the wagging of the dog's tail and so on. But this expression of a smile is something just enormously advanced in their thinking. Anyway, what I'm saying was that Swami Dayananda used to say that really when a baby is born, it's enveloped in complete ignorance. And one by one, the ignorance goes. It goes. And then at one time, whatever through the grace of the Ishvara, you have the ability to say, what's going on? Who am I? Where am I going? Just the other day, I was, we had dinner with some friends, my wife and I. And this person, all of a sudden, it was a surprise to me, at the end of the dinner, somehow the talk came about, COVID and how people are dying and this, that, or the other. And he came out and said, I would like to know who am I. Oh, I was just thinking, interesting. He says, I don't know who I am. Am I the father of my children? Yes. I am the husband of my wife? Yes. So I have certain roles that I'm playing. And so, this is what we were discussing in the earlier class today, Brahma Sutra class. This is what is called Tatastha Lakshanam. All the relative relationships that I have, my identification is with respect to what's going on in my life. That much I know. But I don't know what my Swarupa Lakshanam is. So this gentleman, our friend, doesn't understand Swarupa or Tatastha or anything. But he was just saying, who am I? So I offered it to him. And I said, listen, this is what we are all studying, and this is what the quest of my life has been to also, so I'm very happy. If you want, I can spend some time with you. And he said, oh yeah, we must do this, but I don't know if it will come about or not. We'll have to see. But anyway, so at some point in our lives, we need to answer this question, who am I? So, the Bhagavad Gita and the entire Shastra says, be ready to inquire right now. Be fully equipped. And just like you learn anything else, you have to just focus on it with the help of the wisdom of the Shastra, and you will understand. You're already free, you don't understand it. This is what you need to learn. So this is what is called Sadhya Mukti. Sadhya Mukti means that at some point in time I should say, oh my God, I am an unlimited conscious being. which is not changing. Who is not which, but who is not changing, who was never born, always there, not subject to any destruction. This is what one has to understand. But suppose in the process of doing so, your mind is not there yet. The Upadesha, all of the lessons, all of the teachings and so on have not seeped into your mind yet. And in the meantime, your body is starting to give you problems, and towards the latter stages of your life, it's becoming imperative that you have to perhaps conduct your inquiry in the next stage of the next life. So that's what's called a safety valve in the sense. So the 8th chapter is simply saying, in case you do not finish this job, let us provide you with a safety valve where your next birth will be highly efficient in finishing the job. This is what the 8th chapter is all about. It is what is called Krama Mukti. So he is describing all of that. And we saw in verse number 9 where he says, here is what you need. The flow of number 5 to 8 in answering questions from Arjuna was Prayana Kale. Prayana Kale means towards almost like you can feel it towards the end of the life. In that part of the fiqh, what should I do? If I haven't finished the job of really understanding who I am, then where am I going to go? What's my next future? What should I do? Is there something I need to do? So here Krishna says, yes, glad you asked. What you need to do is to begin to have refuge in me. And why refuge in me? Not the refuge to this world, because the world cannot help you in transitioning to the next life. They have done their part in giving you love and support in this life. Wonderful. There also was done through my blessings. But now their job is done. They are incapable, even if they want to. This is what happened at the time of the end of the life. Everybody is crying because they don't know how to help you. They would like to help you. And all they can do is to give some prayers after you're gone and say, please make the soul of this person peaceful. That's all you can do. It's through Shraddha, through Shraddha ceremony. And then also you don't know whether it's being done or not, or am I doing the right thing. Uncertainty. So in any way you are helpless. But you are under the protection of someone who is your support, your natural support. So in the verse number 9 we saw. So the question is, if you have a doubt as to who my natural support is, not the incidental support, but my long-term support, then this one should understand. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoho Aniyan Sam Anusmaredya Sarvasya Dhataram. Sarvasya, this is an important thing. Sarvasya Dhataram means one who is the permanent support of all living and non-living beings. So it is exactly like a wave of the ocean who is beginning to feel, oh my goodness, I am beginning to fall apart. I am beginning to disintegrate. My body, we are exactly like that's exactly like a human being. The human being has these temporary props that allow me to function as a living being. Having a physical body. A physical body is like someone which helps me to transact with people. How can people even support me if they don't know how to identify me? So now that I have a body, I'll say, oh, you, yes, we can help you. Mind, Sukshma Sharira. And I can feel that all these things are disintegrating. And with that, my whole identity is in question, like a wave. So to that wave, it is said, listen, we understand. We understand. We understand your concern. But don't be concerned. Why? Because Sarvasya Dhataram. I am the support of all living beings. If water can say, I am the support of all waves, please don't be afraid, because you're not going anywhere. In the case of a living being, it's slightly more sophisticated than a wave, because the wave does not have, when I talk about the wave is feeling, I'm disintegrating, it's assuming that it has a Sukshma Sharira, which it doesn't. But suppose a wave had a Sukshma Sharira, a subtle body, a mind. So it reflects the very consciousness which is the ocean. Then it can say, please don't be concerned, because I am the Dhataram, I am the very support of all the waves. And in the case of a human being, when you take up a new body, your identity will still be secure with my support. Don't panic. You're going to be okay. Yes, it's a big change from one life to the other, but in the scheme of things, it's not that big a change. It'll be okay. This is what it is. And so that's what we have to do, that if we cannot make it in this life, then let me give you some ways for you to expedite going, not expedite, but to make your transition to the next life safe, efficient, and productive. This is the meaning of the rest of it. So now one interesting thing. Let's go to the next verse, number 10. So, prayana kale manasa achalena bhaktya yuktaha yoga balena cha. Yeah, in this yoga balena, it's not yoga balena. There's a mistake here in one of the, I just saw that. It's called yoga balena. It's not it's yoga, not yoga. Dhruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So now it's an interesting thing. Let's look at this. So now it says, as we saw in the previous classes, that what you should do is not wait until the last minute to go to Ishvara's refuge. Don't wait until the last minute, because it won't happen. You're fooling yourself by saying that, let me enjoy life, but in the very last minute when I am in trouble, then I will remember you. It won't be happening that way, for all the reasons that we mentioned. But if you have started to really base your understanding towards your ultimate support, which is me, the Ishvara saying, then here is the process. You fine-tune your thinking and give it ready for, at the time of trouble, to continue to focus your entire mind towards me. And it's be strong at that time, be capable at that time. Why? Because there'll be so many distractions. Your own bodily problems, you're going to have aches and pains and so on and so forth. And on top of that, you've got all these crying people and say, please don't leave us, don't leave us. And at that time, for you to really focus on me, it's going to be very difficult. So you have to really get into it and practice it. And so here he says, Prayana kale, at the time of death, manasa achalena, by a mind that does not waver, is well focused, bhaktya yuktya, your own devotion to me you should be endowed with that devotion. And that can only come if you have an idea that yes, this can happen, this will happen. So the bhakti means, we've done all of this before, that the Bhakti Upasana means that you must be familiar with me. Until you are not familiar with me, you are not going to love me, you're not going to have the bhakti towards me. So do all of that. Then comes Yoga Ballerina. So this is an important thing. Let me point out something here that our acharyas have told us. So there are two things involved. In fact, before I go into that, let me finish the word meaning of the second part of the verse number 10. And then I'll tell you why it fits in to conceptually what Yoga Ballerina means. So hold on for a second. So let's look at the word meaning of the second. Bhruvor madhye pranam avesha samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So he says, you will, the very last part first, satam param purusham upaiti divyam. You will gain a unity with the ultimate Paramatma that I am. Parama Purusham Upaiti Divyam. Divyam Param Purusham. Three things are used. Param, Purusham, Divyam. So the word meaning of that is, Param means the ultimate. Purusham means the one who is really making you what you are. I am the very basis of who you are. Just like, for example, we saw that the water can say, I am the Purusha of the wave. In that, what manner? You don't you see that really what you are made out of is me. I fulfill you, I fill you up. I fill up the very form of the wave through my my waterness. He's called Purusham. Purusha also means the one who is with you, in you in all the time. I fail to see that it is really Paramatma, Parameshwara, who is really with me at this time. He is me actually, not with me, he's me. That's the two words of Purusha. The one who is dwelling in the city of the jiva, and one who makes the jiva what it is. Both the subtle meanings of Purusha. Divyam. Divyam means one who is self-effulgent. Where the Atma is self-effulgent. It is not conscious because of anything. I think I mentioned it to you that the scientists are all trying to figure out, and they're all puzzled. How is this consciousness? How is it consciousness born? What is it made out of? What is it, an atomic structure? The more they look into it, the more confused it gets. It is not the result of something. It is not made up of something. It is what it is. And in fact, everything else is made up of consciousness. But consciousness by itself is an independent, self-effulgent. This is what is the meaning of Divyam. In our meditation, this should become a point of inquiry. The self-existence and the self-effulgence is something we must look into, think about, gain from. That is the truth. And it's very difficult to see because we are not used to being introduced to something which is self-effulgent. We are only used to thinking, like for example, my mind is dependent on being awake. Sometimes you need to have coffee. It's not functioning very well, so you have some coffee and then you say, now I'm awake. It's not functioning if in deep sleep. It's only functioning in the two states of dream and waking. And there also it is a function of the brain being working. So your sense of thinking and so on is dependent. But the thinking and so on is dependent on the consciousness which is independent. This is what is meant by Divyam. Anyway, so I just want to give you the quick word meaning. I didn't want to go into the exposition of that. Then, so he says, you will be united with me, who is the Param Purusham Divyam. How? The method is now given. Dhruvo madhye pranam aveshya samyak. Dhruvo madhye means in the middle of the two eyebrows. Focus on, this is at the time of death. You can start practicing it even earlier when we are not sure when we are going to die. But the more preparation you can do, the better off you will be, because you will need it at the time of death. At the time of the death, you concentrate on Bhruvos madhye. Bhruva means the two eyebrows. In the middle of that, you please concentrate, because your pranam will leave you. Your life will end by leaving straight from the middle of the two eyebrows. So he's describing that. Okay, so I just want to do that. So now let's go back to what we were interrupted in, that there is an important thing being pointed out here. And that is that everyone is a sadhaka. Sadhaka means one who is desirous of reaching the Paramam Purusha. This is called sadhaka. It comes from sadhana. Sadhya means one which is already. Siddha means one which is already accomplished. Sadhya means what is to be accomplished. Sadhana means what the means of accomplishing. And sadhaka is the one who is trying to accomplish, called sadhaka. So we are all sadhakas in that manner. Whether you are attempting for sadhya mukti, or you are attempting, you are not attempting, but you have to go into krama mukti. Doesn't matter, you are a sadhaka. So this is the important thing to mention, to see here. We are all sadhakas. But if you are far from reaching sadhya mukti, you're not prepared yet. You're not prepared yet, you're still struggling with some basics and so on and so forth. You can assure krama mukti by not only being a sadhaka but also a yogi. So a yogi is a different status of being than a sadhaka. What are the differences? So sadhaka relies purely on the knowledge of the Vedas and imbibing that knowledge so that you get sadhya mukti. A yogi, on the other hand, has gone through all these stages of the yoga, Ashtanga yoga, and you are now close to be able to concentrate on the thoughts of samadhi. This is called dharana. So dharana means that you are able to hold a thought with a lot of practice. The sadhaka doesn't have to do that. Because if the sadhaka is closer enough to the sadhya mukti, it doesn't have to be a yogi, because you're gone, you're already done. You're already awake from the dream. But if you are not, then you may want to think about not only being a sadhaka, but also acquiring the status of being a yogi. And there, then the path of how your thoughts go, your prana goes, through the Sushumna Nadi. And all of that is being described in the Vedas elsewhere, not here. This is just a summary. It's just a summary. Means that your pranam is concentrated in the middle of the brows as a yogi. And at the time of the death, then the direction of the prana is going towards, and I think he will describe this later on in the Gita, it will go into the lighted areas, the lighted paths, not areas, but lighted paths versus dark paths. They will be lighted for you. Means you're going the right direction towards Ishvara. So this is what he's talking about here in verse number 10. He's talking about what you need to do as a yogi. And how do I become a yogi? Yoga Ballerina. Through the strength of practice. The yoga means a lot of practice. All yoga means a lot of practice. You see, Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga means that your body normally does not bend as much, but if you keep on practicing, slowly, you become it's amazing to see some of the amazing twisted forms of people who are doing yoga. Many of you do yoga. I can't do it because I haven't practiced it. It's just amazing what practice can do. Dedication, slowly doing it. And so then comes the mental part, the same thing there as well. And we'll go into that a little bit later on, where you start to focus your mind towards something. And here, this will later on, it says alambanam. So you have to take some symbol and just focus on it. And these are the symbols of Ishvara. And if you keep on focusing on it, you do have the ability at the time of death to be so focused that you're not distracted by all the other things that are going on. If that happens, then your next life is very efficiently deployed for you. So there are two side things that are necessary. Achalena manasa means non-wavering mind, and yoga balena. Yoga balena means to really be practicing all the way. If you do that, you are in good shape. This is what Krishna is saying in verse number 10. I think I've pretty much covered all of that. So we can go to the next. Number 11. So in number 11, again he defines the goal. The goal being, why are we doing all this? What are you accomplishing? So he goes over the definition of what you are accomplishing in a different way. So he says, Yad aksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yad yatayaha vitaragaha yad icchanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshye. So he says, let me briefly tell you, sangrahena pravakshye, I will briefly tell you. Pravakshye is a future tense, means that I will tell you. And he's saying it as he's telling us he's saying it. Sangrahena. Sangrahena means one, let me just summarize it for you. I won't go to it in a very exhaustive way. He'll do that later on in the chapter. But he says, let me introduce to you what is your ultimate goal. What will happen to you? So he says, Yat Aksharam. Veda Vido Vadanti. He says, the knowers of the Vedas, those who have been qualified enough to inquire into what the Vedas are saying, they say you will reach Aksharam. Aksharam means the one who does not decay. This is the Swarupa, which does not decay. And this Vastu that does not decay, Naksharati. Sharati means does not change, does not, forget about decaying, it does not even change at all. Whatever your true nature is, Satyam Jnanam Anantam, stays as it is. Why? How? Because it is self-existent. It is self-effulgent. And there's no boundaries. Anantam. It's called Akshara. All Anatma, all non-self is Ksharam, Ksharati, is changing, decaying, right in front of your eyes. And what does not change is Aksharam. So it is a very curious thing, really. This is what is Viveka and Vairagya, as you know. I'm just repeating all those things, just making sure that we are right on track of what the fundamentals are. It's a very curious thing that there are two distinct factors in my life. One is Aksharam and the other one is Sharam, Ksharam. One which is not capable of decaying, and the other one is what cannot escape from decaying. One is Atma, the other one is Anatma. And the two should not be mixed up. They are in different realms of reality. But in my confusion, I mix them up. Like in an appliance, I cannot separate the electricity from the appliance. It's all one. All one. In the Vedantic Insight class, as you know, we are analyzing, or we just finished analyzing the first verse of Panchadashi. There we says, Namah Shankaranandam Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Grasa Eka Graha Grasa Eka Karmane. So there is a word called Mahamoha, the one who removes the Mahamoha. So it's an interesting thing. Moha means Not knowing something as it is called moha. Moha means mukh. Mukh from mukh is the verb. Means I'm confused about something. There is, if there is something, like for example, supposing you don't take something for what it is, and you have a different way of looking at it than what it is, it's called moha. Mahamoha means it is not something that you are confused about yourself. It's called Mahamoha. So that's the situation that we have, is that we are confusing. I am Aksharam, but I think I am Ksharam. I am not capable of decaying, but I think I am decaying. This is a Mahamoha. So anyway, Aksharam. Veda vido vadanti means that those who know Vedas and say, my God, you are someone who is Aksharam. And so there are different ways of looking at it. So one is the knowers of the Veda know this is Aksharam, number one. Then Vishanti yat yatayoho vitaraga. And so then the yatayaha, yatis, yatnashilaha. Remember the very common say, yati muni, jnani. Jnani yati muni. So muni means mananashila, one who is capable of analyzing. Yati means one who has the courage of walking away from the normal desires of life. Vitaraga. I must do this. This is exactly what happens. Your mind just proposes, I think we should do this today. Let's go here. Let's go to the beach today. And you feel, no, I don't want to go to the beach today because I'd like to just study something, do something useful. No, it's a very good, your mind says, no, but it's, you're not an external somebody saying it. If somebody external saying it, it's easier to refute it. But if your own mind is proposing, so this is what is called an internal enemy. In the Gita also it says that no external enemy is as harmful to you as your internal enemy. How? Because your own mind says, it's such a beautiful day, I think we should go to the beach today. Hey, I have some jobs to do, I have some work to do, I have to write some paper, I have to do this. No, that can all wait. This is your own mind saying. The yati, on the other hand, is the one who has systematically overcome these useless proposals from your own mind and says, no. We'll do it some other time, not today. So this is what he scales. Vishanti yat yatayo vitaragaha. Vigataha yasya ragaha yatassaha. From whom? Ragaha. All these colors of desires have been conquered. That person also tries. For what? Aksharam. Then the third one is Yad Ichchanta Brahmacharyam Charanti. Brahmacharya, Brahmachari. So here Brahmachari doesn't mean a celibacy. That's another meaning of the word Brahmachari. It's a celibacy. But here it means whose acharaha, whose conduct in life, whose attitude in life, whose focus in life, it's towards Brahma Vichara. So this is what is called Nishkama Bhakti. That you find, I don't, as we have seen before, I don't want these crutches. I want no crutches whatsoever. I want to be totally independent. And by desiring which, yad icchantaha brahmacharyam charanti. Who is the brahmachari? Brahmachari is the one who is conducting his life based on this, with Brahma as the focus. Tatte padam, that one which everyone is trying so hard, the one which is talked about by the Vedas, those who know the Vedas, one who is a yati and one who is a brahmachari, all of them are focused on which is now I will briefly describe to you. Is what he's saying. So something occurred to me to talk about. It comes from this word charanti. Charanti, acharanti. It could be same thing. There are two different versions of this, acharanti and charanti. So, this is interesting. In the commentary on Rudram from Swami Maheshananji, so Swami Maheshananji has written Rudram in two parts. So that book is available, it's upstairs in my office. And when I taught Rudram several years back, I think 1911 or something, it was based on this book. So every now and then I just, pick up a book and revise it. And so I'm doing Rudram again. And it just brought everything out to the surface of my mind very nicely. So in that book there are two portions. The first portion is a kind of like a word-for-word analysis of all the Rudram Vakyas, all the words. And the second one is some talks based on the meaning of Rudram to the society. So this was done in 1975, I see. And so he gave some talks, I think in New Delhi, based on Rudram. So there he talks about acharanti charanti. So I just recently read that, so I thought I would talk a little bit about that. It's something different from what this is, but nevertheless it's related. It's not totally different. So what he said was, and it's related to the ksharam versus aksharam. So what he said was that this is a very curious phenomena where there are two factors, as I said earlier. One is ourselves, the self of ourselves, the self, the Atma, which is aksharam, which cannot be sullied, which cannot possibly be affected by any problems. This is the truth. It's not a make-believe, it's the truth. This is one thing. And the other one is the anatma, which is totally full of problems. Totally full of problems. And it is, Swami Maheshananji says that, so this is the Maya Shakti. So the Maya Shakti, the Anatma, my experienced life, is not something that has problems, it itself is a problem. And he gave a very beautiful example to this. He said, take coal, C-O-A-L, coal. Coal. So the coal is black, totally black. That's the quality of coal. It absorbs all the light and nothing is reflected. So it just becomes totally black. Now, in a coal, the blackness is not a quality. You see, blackness is not a quality, it is the very swarupa of coal. It is made up of, it is blackness personified. So he says that supposing you use to write something with coal, what is going to happen? Blackness. You cannot get red color out of it, you cannot get white color out of it, no grey or anything, it's going to be completely black. So this is the Anatma. So the Anatma does not have problems, it is a problem. By itself it is a problem. It's like a coal. So now we have two things. One is a Atma, which is kind of like a sky, space, which cannot be polluted. The other one is the Anatma, which is like coal, which is totally full of problems. It is the problem itself. So this is a very curious thing. We have these two factors, and what the jiva does is to mix them up. Just mix them up. One which is incapable, the one which is incapable of freedom, the other one is incapable of limitation, and we mix them up. So what do we do now? So he says, this is where his talks became so beautiful and to the public. This is a public talks based on Rudra. He says, you have to improve your conduct in life. Achara. Your character of your life has to improve. As you improve, you will begin to see the mix-up. Until you do, you will not see the mix-up. And what is meant by the achara and so on and so forth? He has a long lecture on that. And he says that I find that people are basically dishonest in evaluating themselves because you do not live a truthful life. How does we not live a truthful life? If you ask somebody, do you want love? And he says, yes, love. Don't you think that others also need love? Yes, others also need love. Okay, good. Now we have established that love. How about honesty? Yes. I want to be treated honestly. How about others? Yeah, we should be treating others honestly. How about tolerance? You want to be treated in a tolerant fashion? Yes. How about others? So tolerance, forgiveness, truth, love, all these kinds of things. then we start observing people's lives. And he says, it is not. So the mix-up occurs when the mix-up is seen to be an unnecessary mix-up when your mind becomes loving, tolerant, forgiving. All those qualities. Devi Sampat in the Bhagavad Gita. When you have Devi Sampat, you begin to see who you are. Until then, you have a problem. And what is the problem? That your actual conduct in life is so far away from what you think should be done. How? He says, I find that inside the home, forget about outside to people, inside the home also, you have intolerance, non-forgiveness. People fight amongst their own brothers and sisters, with their spouses, with their children. And there's impatience. He says, how is that going to keep you from how is that going to solve the issue of your being limited? Because your conduct itself is so censurable. He says, that's why fine. And so if you want to remove this confusion, this is what really got me thinking about this. Yad aksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yat yatayo vitaragaha. Then improve your... And yad icchanto brahmacharyam charanti. That's where my trigger of the mind came. That your conduct has to be a very simple one. Because you're trying to be something, some kind of an idealistic person. I want people to be behaving with me. Why should they behave with you? What kind of a special, are you some Devi or Devata? They have their own problems. Let them be what they are. Just accept yourself for who you are. And you are something very beautiful. And you're not going to accept it until you calm down. Anyways, long section. Beautiful, really. So he says the whole issue in our life is that our conduct does not reflect our values. What we value most and what we consider to be what I need to be, I'm so far away from it. Why? Because I lie and I cheat. I tell people I'm going to be at your place at 7 o'clock, and then you say, oh, forget it. That was just what I said I would be. I'm not going to be there at 7 o'clock. I can't do it. I find really, I just observe people and how I used to be really at one time before I got introduced to Vedanta. But you start to feel the defects in your own life. And what I'm beginning to feel is that if I so this is what's called amanitvam, adambhitvam, ahimsa, kshanti, rajavam, all the good qualities that Krishna. If you just calm down and just live honestly and truthfully, lovingly, then you begin to see the confusion that we have between Ksharam and Aksharam. That's what he's saying. He says that, listen, that goal that you want, Sangrahena Pravakshi, he says, I will give you in more detail, but let me just summarize it for you. That this is the one where everyone who is really trying to reach a sense of beingness which is free of problems. This is what they do. Veda vidam vadanti vishanti yat yatayo vitaragaha brahmacharyam charanti. Anyway, so I think that we will probably see if there's any other that Swami Paramarthananda had given. I think I pretty much covered. Yeah, the only other thing that he was talking about is the fact that that really everything in this creation you can handle, you can use, and it's all useful and so on, but they cannot, things in the world cannot give us the emotional security that we seek. Emotional security means one where I find that if I just resort to it, my problems melt away. And I can rely on that. That is only possible from Ishvara, not from things of the world. Why not? Because the things of the world themselves are looking for a refuge. To go to something which is not dependent on other thing, which is independent. Divyam, this is the word. Divyam is a very important word. Divya means self-effulgent, self-reliable, self-existing, doesn't need any. That's who I need to reach. If I want to really require emotional help from someone. Otherwise, you can go after something and it might give you some temporary support, but eventually that also support will wither away. You cannot do that. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, so we covered a couple of verses, and we will start with verse number 12 next time. So with that, let me say the closing verses and then see if you have any questions. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. On this laptop, I did something where I have to put my password every time, even if it stops for a second. And I've been trying to do that. This happened since yesterday. I don't have to figure out how to not have to put a password in. So give me a second. I haven't figured out how to do that on the Chromebook. Yeah, it's annoying. Even if you shut it off for 10 seconds, you have to re-put your password again. So there must be something that I must have made a change of some kind. I have to figure out on Chromebook how to get that back. Okay, YouTube, videos. So few people watching. It's just amazing. I think it's slowly dropping. I don't know why. But anyway, we'll have to talk about that. Only 18 people watching. Quite a number from before. Anyway, Darshana and Shri Sushma Bhatia, Chandradulam, Suvarna, and Oscar, Henry, Ashwin Nayak, Keshav Chopra, Lichi, Maithili, Virendra Singh, Subroto, Virendra, Umit Chopra, Carol Tonelli, Renu Daswani, Natalia, Barbara Weichman, Satish Jalota. Good. Very happy to see you all. I know this is a 3-day weekend. Enjoy yourself. Good weather coming up. I'll wait to see if you have any questions. I think I find that a lot of people really see this video later on, which is fine. In fact, we have to make a decision about live classes, whether we should resume them or not. And I think I'm going to send a survey out to you to see what you think about it. Some possibilities are there, so I will send it to you. Yeah, Maitri, you're right, it is a long weekend, so I think that's perhaps part of the reason. Anyway, I'm very happy that those of you that attended the class, it's good to think about these things. For myself also too, I really enjoy just discussing all these beautiful lessons that I have learned and I am still learning and implementing them. So having this satsang is very enjoyable to me also. Thank you so much, and so we will see you next week. Hari Om.